All right, today I've got an awesome movie, 1989's Recoil, starring Gary Daniels. Gary Daniels plays Rex Morgan, a detective. So Rex and his partner they get called to a bank robbery, and something happens. His partner just kind of disappears. I don't know, maybe because his partner doesn't do much in the whole movie. It's mostly Ray Morgan. So apparently, this Gary Daniels guy has kind of a following. I'd never heard of him before, but he's a star. So one of the bank robbers escapes. So him and about 4 or 5 other cops chase down the bank robber. They corner him, and he looks like he's getting so it ends, kind of mirroring modern day 2020. It looks like he's going to pull out a gun, so they kill him. They shoot him, all 5 of the cops. Turns out he doesn't have a gun, so there's some controversy there, but that gets dropped in like 2 minutes. But it turns out that the guy they killed was the son of a mobster, and the mobster wants revenge. So, what makes this movie so awesome? It's not the acting. Like I said, apparently Gary Daniels has a following. He was like a kickboxer, I think, in the UK. I've never heard of the guy. Certainly not his partner, who is not a very good actor.
5 minutes.
But what does make it awesome are the action scenes. So, what kind of action scenes? I'm glad you asked. For example, early on, there's a car that flips over into the air and takes out a stoplight. Later on, when our hero is chasing down one of the bad guys, and the bad guy's in a white limo, and the bad guy pops out of the sunroof of the white limo, starts shooting our hero with 2 handguns while he's smoking a cigarette. That may be the coolest guy to have ever lived right there. And although the acting's not that great, it does have some pretty cool dialogue. So, for example, when the mob boss is talking to his wife about their dead son, the wife's like, "It's like our son never existed." "He still exists in my heart." "You don't have a heart. It's been eaten away by darkness." Oh, man. Get you. And then, in kind of like a mirroring of what happens to the mob boss, our hero, Morgan, his family gets killed too. So Morgan tracks down the henchman that killed his family. And he's like, "How much did they pay you to kill my family?" What does the henchman say? "They paid me to kill you. I killed your family for kicks." Come on, that's pretty badass. I mean, yeah, there is a limited budget on the movie. Although they did have some pretty decent car crashes. But the budget does show at times. For example, there's a time when they're clearly using the same semi twice. But to their credit, they painted it a different color the second time. Now, when I first saw this movie, I went on Wikipedia to look a little bit about it, and they mentioned a ending that the version I watched did not have. So, a little minor spoiler here. Spoilers, the good guy gets his revenge. And according to what Wikipedia had said, after that, there's a scene where our hero is so upset about the loss of his family that he kills himself. That scene was not in the version I saw. I also looked on a couple of versions that are on YouTube, but it wasn't in that version either. So I tend to think that may not actually exist. But Recoil, should you go watch it? Yes, absolutely. I give it 7 thumbs up. Morgan gets revenge, but is it really the end? It probably is.